Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, True Crime Stories. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe so you can hear more. Thanks for stopping by. So through the week, as I'm scrolling through social media, if I come upon a story that I find that I might be interested in working on, I save it. This is another one that I saved from this week, The Disappearance of Amanda Jones. A pregnant woman nearing her due date vanishes after a surprise meeting with the uninterested father of the child. Although the man was named as a person of interest, he hasn't been named as a suspect. This was almost 20 years ago, and they still have no answers. On August the 14th, 2005, Amanda Jones from Festus, Missouri, received a call from the man she claimed was the father of her baby. Although he told her he wasn't interested in a relationship with her, he told her she hoped that he would be interested in a relationship with the child. Up until that point, he had shown no interest in the mother or the baby. She was last seen on August 14th, 2005 at around 1 o'clock at the Hillsboro Civic Center in Jefferson County, Missouri. The FBI is investigating her disappearance. She was pregnant and nearing her due date when she went for a surprise meeting with the man that she claimed to be the father of the child. Now, he called her. According to her family, he called her. He had shown no interest in her. He had shown no interest in being a father to her baby. But out of the blue, he calls her up and says he wants to meet her. Her hope is that he was at least interested in the baby. It was a humid Sunday morning, and Amanda was on her way to church. She told the man that she would meet him in the parking lot of the Civic Center around 1 o'clock that day. After church, she drove her 4-year-old daughter to her parents' house, or her grandparents' house, and asked them to watch her, and she told them that she would be back in about 2 hours, but they never saw her again. Around 1:15 that day, Amanda received a phone call, and it was on her cell phone, and she wasn't heard from again. According to Bryan Westfall, he met with the pregnant woman around 1 o'clock. He says that they talked for about an hour and that she got up and left and never came back to the table. He claimed that he went out to his car at around 5 o'clock and that she was sitting in her car. Now, okay, people are asking the question. It was around 1 o'clock when they met, when he called her. He called her at around 1:15 and asked her to meet him at the Civic Center. And according to him, they met and they talked for about an hour, which would put them at around 2 o'clock. He says that around 2 o'clock she told him she had to go use the bathroom, but she never came back to the table or back to wherever it was that they were sitting together. He claimed he waited around for a long time and that she never came back in. So at 5 o'clock, he went to his car. Now, did he sit there waiting on her for 3 hours? Did he try to call her cell phone again within that 3-hour period and say, hey, I'm still sitting here waiting. Where are you? So that is something that I would have asked. The police would have checked her phone, and I would have asked him, did you make any attempts to call her? Did you call back to her family's house and ask had she come back? And why did she get up and leave abruptly? Did he say something that upset her that much? So people are asking the question, why would she have just sat in her car for 3 hours in the heat in her pregnancy? So this story is very questionable, to say the least. But he was never named officially as a suspect. He cooperated with the investigation. A preliminary search was conducted on a family farm. Police are hoping someone will come forward with enough evidence to get a search warrant. The family feels they already know who killed their daughter. Does he say, when I came out of the Civic Center after waiting around there for 3 hours, which, let's face it, my personal opinion, if he was not interested in her in a relationship, he didn't want to be a dad to her kid, he certainly was not going to sit around there waiting for 3 hours for her to come back. This is from last year. This is from August of 2024. Hope in solving a pregnant woman's disappearance fueled denial of an interview tape. Investigators believe Amanda Jones and her unborn baby Hayden may be somewhere on the grounds of the Hillsboro Civic Center. It's where she was last seen. She was 9 months pregnant at the time. She went to meet Bryan Westfall. So did he work there? Did he have some connection to this Civic Center? And do they believe that in the 3 hours that he claims he was waiting around there for her, that he was actually disposing of her? Amanda's mother, Bertha Probst, told us she's there on those fairgrounds, and I don't think she's far from where he last saw her. She's been gone all this time, and we have no answers. We just have a little memorial to keep her alive, to keep her memory alive. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office excavated areas in and around the Civic Center in 2019, along with cadaver dogs, but it discovered no new leads. In 2021, an electronic billboard offered a $20,000 reward from the FBI, and there still hasn't been a breakthrough. 2 years later, the family sued Bryan Westfall for wrongful death. Now, Bryan Westfall died weeks after being served with that lawsuit. The family believes authorities should release their original interview tape with Westfall. And I'm assuming that they mean like back in 2005. With him being gone, I don't think they have anything else to go on. But they really do, because the public's memories could be jarred. Bryan Westfall, if they're saying if this tape is released and the public hears him giving his version of events, someone out there who may have been around that Civic Center that day or in that area may remember seeing him. They may remember seeing her. Someone who knew him and knew his actual whereabouts for that day may have been able to come forward and say, no, he wasn't where he said he was someplace else. But this is the hope that the family has. Fox 2 requested the interview tape under Missouri's Sunshine Law, but they were denied. The county sheriff detective explained why. It's not that we're withholding this simply for our own interest or trying to hide something, but we want to protect the integrity of the investigation. We're certainly not protecting the person of interest because he's dead. But if the opportunity comes forward for us to bring criminal charges against somebody else, such as maybe a co-conspirator, or maybe they think he might have had someone helping him to dispose of her body, they don't want to play all their cards, they say. Westfall's attorney has maintained his client's innocence even after his death. His family and the detectives agree that someone out there knows something, even if it's just a small clue that someone saw that day. It's one thing to lose a child, but to not be able to have closure because you were never able to say goodbye to them. And I'm sure that this woman was getting ready to give birth. They said she was nearing her due date. So I would assume that she had probably bought baby clothes and other baby items and probably had a nursery set up. And I mean, I have no proof to go on, but it's just very hard to believe that anything else could have happened to her. From the time that she went to meet this man, and in this so-called 3-hour period where he had allegedly sat around waiting for a woman he was not at all interested in, not at all interested in this, family that, of the baby and this woman that came along with it. The Missouri Attorney General's office was close to charging Bryan Westfall in the 2005 cold case, Disappearance of Amanda Jones, who was 8.5 months pregnant when she disappeared. The person of interest in the disappearance of Amanda Jones died this week as the investigation was picking up momentum. Bryan Westfall, who Jones said was the father of her baby, was the last known person to see her in August of 2005. Police questioned him and he allowed them to conduct limited searches on his property, but they were never able to gather enough evidence to charge him. Now, it says here the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department had been working with the Missouri Attorney General's cold case unit and felt that they were close to being able to bring charges in connection to the disappearance. On Sunday, this was back in 2023, police said a family member of Westfall's called 911 and said he collapsed at around 8:58 p.m. They said he had been complaining about a headache and he stood up and collapsed. He was taken to the hospital by ambulance, and the next day investigators went to his girlfriend's parents' house and told them that they were likely going to charge him in connection with this disappearance. But little known to the investigators, he was in the hospital. And they were told that he had collapsed and had been taken to the hospital. Now, the next day, investigators learned that he had suffered a stroke and he died later that day. Now, what this meant for the investigation was unclear. Jones' parents and her now adult daughter put out a statement saying that they were stunned, but they would not give up the search for answers. They had filed a lawsuit against him, and I don't know if he had an estate. I don't know if they would have been able. I find it doubtful that they would have been able to collect anything. I don't know the circumstances, if her remains were ever found, and any remains of the baby were ever found, and they were able to do DNA to find out if he was the father, if they would have been able to collect anything from the lawsuit, because the lawsuit was based on him being involved with her disappearance. Their lawsuit accused him of killing her, but without a body, without any kind of DNA or any kind of evidence of a crime. I don't know that they would have won this lawsuit. But I think for him, the fear was he was going to have to be questioned, even though this was a civil case. Sometimes it's the civil cases that gathers the most information for the criminal case. So I think that was where he became very stressed out. The sudden death of Bryan Westfall shocked us all beyond belief, according to the family. We feel cheated. We feel as cheated now as we felt when Bryan took our daughter from us and our unborn grandson. These situations, I think back, I sit here and I think back to Chris Watts and Shanann Watts. I think back to Scott and Lacey Peterson. There's so many people now claiming Scott Peterson's innocence. I don't know. I want to see the proof of his innocence, because it's pretty overwhelming that he had started this new relationship unbeknownst to his wife, who was pregnant and ready to give birth any time. And then suddenly she goes missing and is found in the same waters that he was fishing in, that he told police he was there. He put himself right there. Just as this man, this Bryan Westfall, put himself at the Civic Center where Amanda Jones' car and purse and other items were found. And he admitted to having met with her that day. This was the reason why the family wanted them to release the interview tape, so that people could hear his version of what happened, what he says happened. He claims that she was sitting in her car when he came out 3 hours after she got up and excused herself, after she told him she would be back. I personally envision, this is just my own thoughts as I sit and think about it, that she pulls into the parking lot. She had these ultrasound photos. She was excited, thinking that he was going to actually be excited too, to have a child coming into the world in a matter of days. And he was waiting for her, and he had other plans for her. And just as Scott Peterson put himself at that water where his wife and baby were eventually found, this man puts himself at the Civic Center where her belongings were eventually found and where she was last seen. Until all these years later, when they were planning to actually charge him. And then he dies from a massive heart attack, probably because he knew that they were going to find something. He probably feared that eventually they would find her remains, and I think that he probably just wondered if they would still be able to get DNA, if there was anything left of the baby, to find out that he was the father, but that didn't prove that he was the killer. But I think that it's very odd that he didn't try to come up with some alibi or something to say, no, I never met with her, I never spoke with her that day. He admits that he spoke with her that day. But what did they talk about? Did he say, I once again let her know that I was in no way interested in being a father to her son, to my son? Or did he say, I told her that we would try to work something out? These little babies Shanann Watts, of course, was pregnant. And there's so many women out there like that this happens to. And these men, I just wonder, do they ever sit and think 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years about the child that they could have had, about the child that they could have raised or had a relationship with? Um, I wonder about that a lot because, as anybody has lost a child, has lost a baby, or, had a miscarriage, or lost a baby, or lost a child at a young age, or even in later years, I imagine that you probably sit in each milestone that takes place in the lives of the children around you, nieces, nephews, neighbors, kids, kids in your community, as you see these events, and especially with social media. You see high school graduations and proms. You see them getting their driver's license. You see people, children growing up and getting married and having kids of their own. I wonder if these people ever sit and think about that they took the life of the child, and it was something as simple as just saying, yes, that's my child, and I'll do what I can to help raise them. Or either just say, maybe it is my child, but that doesn't mean that I'm obligated to be in their life. I think it's the financial. I think what 90% of it comes down to is financial. And also the fact that they've moved on to some new woman or some new relationship. And the family did say that they send their condolences to his parents and his family because they knew the heartbreak and pain of losing a child. We will continue our search for Amanda and her unborn son. Her mother did give a little bit of background. She said that her daughter, Amanda, met Bryan Westfall at a Christmas party. And apparently they just had a one-time fling, and she became pregnant. And that he didn't want anything to do with her or the baby. Her mother said that her daughter brought the ultrasound photos with her the day that she went to meet Bryan Westfall, hoping that it would compel him to want to become a part of the child's life. She had already named the baby Hayden, and she was only a week away from her due date. They later found her unlocked and abandoned car in the Civic Center parking lot. Inside, they found the ultrasound photos and her purse, but her keys, wallet, and cell phone were gone. So it sounds to me like that he's convinced her to go for a ride with him. Maybe he, possibly, he said, let's go for a ride and have a talk about this. And this is when he disposed of her. And that's just a theory, but the fact that her keys, her wallet, and her cell phone were gone sounds like she grabbed those items and went and got into a car with him. Or someone else took those items to make it look that way. Now, he did allow police to conduct a limited search of his property 2 days after her disappearance. It was very limited. They didn't do any kind of excavation or anything. They just did kind of like a foot search. I don't think he was too worried about that because I don't think that he disposed of her on his own property. And I did read another thing about later on, years later, they did excavate part of an area around the Civic Center, but they didn't find anything there either. He denied having anything to do with her disappearance, and he hired a lawyer. and he didn't talk to the police anymore after that. He just spoke through his attorney. His girlfriend at that time also hired an attorney. So is it possible that she knew what happened? Did he tell her about this baby, and was she so upset about this? Was he in a relationship with her prior to having this one night fling with Amanda and her becoming pregnant? And I think, even though he didn't want anything to do with her or the baby, I think he knew that he would probably be asked for financial support. Now, the FBI is offering a $20,000 reward for information leading to the location of Amanda Jones and her unborn baby. Amanda is described as being 5 foot 8 inches tall, and at the time of her disappearance, she was pregnant, 8.5 months, almost 9 months. She was almost full term, and she weighed around 225 pounds at that time. She has brown hair with blonde highlights and blue eyes. She was last seen wearing a pink sleeveless shirt and a pink and white flowered skirt and pink sandals. Now, her daughter, who was only 4 years old at the time that this happens, says that she remembers going with her mother to the Civic Center to meet Bryan Westfall. And this was shortly after she found out that she was pregnant. And she says that she went with her mother. She remembers this. She remembers this man, her mother going and telling this man that she was pregnant. And she had already told her family that she was pregnant. And he just told her he didn't believe that it was his child, and that he didn't want to be a part of the life of her family, or the baby. And so as her due date closed in, I think he realized that he would probably be asked to do a paternity test. And this, I don't know. I can only speculate my own thoughts on it. It was a premeditated thing. I don't think he called her up that day to come to meet to say, you know, I know you're getting ready to give birth to my child, and I want to be there for it. But I think he called her up that day to make sure she didn't. And but he's passed away now. There was one other person that the police questioned, was her ex-husband named Scott Jones. He was the father of her daughter, and they had been divorced around 3 years, and the police couldn't find anything indicating that he had had anything to do with her disappearance, and he was cleared. And so that was where everything stands with this case. If you have any information relating to her disappearance, you can contact the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office at 636-797-5515. Thanks for watching.